My name's Robert. I'm actually from a company called GuestScores, and basically what we are doing is playing in the space of in-house customer engagement. What I'm trying to hope for the outcomes of this presentation will be is how you as a hotel can actually increase direct bookings, increase occupancy, improve your online review scores, and really make a difference to what your hotel can do. You can see there I'm talking about identify your guest heroes, and that's something that I will get into a little bit further in the presentation. It's something that a lot of the hotels aren't paying too much attention to, but is something that can really benefit you. So when we look at in-house engagement or the engagement cycle, we can really divide engagement into three sections. You've got what we call the pre-stay engagement, and people would be quite understand also the post-stay engagement. And really what we're doing is in-house. So let's look at just pre-stay first. That would be covered by companies, such as Triptease. They're the sort of companies that when you're, for example, going to a hotel website, that they may initiate a chat window, and that chat window is really designed to try and secure a direct booking. At the other end of the scale, we've also got post-stay engagement. Now, post-stay engagement is typically run by companies like Revenate or ReviewPro. They're the sort of companies that will send out emails, CRM, effectively, to try and encourage online reviews. When we actually look at the in-house engagement space, there's really not too many players. If we actually look at in-house, how can we digitally engage the guests while they're actually inside your hotel? And it's an area that is something that's quite a new area, and I think you'll understand by the end of the presentation how in-house engagement can really benefit you. So I'm going to start with a question. Just a quick thing. There's a small group here. Are you guys from hotels, or what's your background? Hotels? No? Nothing? Hotel background? Okay. Hotels? No? Okay. So for the hotels, how interested would you be to actually understand how satisfied your guests are in the hotel? How much do you actually know? If you've got, say, 100 rooms and 100 guests, how many do you really know? How are they happy or not happy? Does it make a difference for you? Of interest? Yes? Okay. So what could you do with that data? I mean, when you actually look at where the industry is going, we seem to be heading for more personalised guest experiences. The one-size-fits-all model, it doesn't really work so well today. And if I actually knew the satisfaction level of my guests, what could I actually do to improve that experience? What could I actually do to change that guest experience? And that's really what we're about. We're about engaging the guests while they're in-house to actually give you that knowledge so you can actually do something about it. Let's look at traditional engagement. How much do we actually contact the guests when they're actually coming to the hotel? You've got a check-in, check-out. There's a touch point there. If you have a concierge, there's some touch points there. But for every 100 guests that you've got in the hotel, how many are you actually engaging with? And I think you'd probably agree it's a relatively small number. When you're actually looking at the check-in experience, the front desk is very much more interested in issuing the room key, getting the credit card, etc. The guest is interested to get into their room. So the front desk doesn't really have an opportunity to do much in terms of communication or upsell or engage the guest. And we find that guests arrive at a hotel, they have very, very few touch points, and then they leave. So really what we're trying to do is change that paradigm. In this space of in-house engagement, it's a very new technology. In a way, I'm not surprised that we don't have a great deal of people in the room. And part of the reason that we find is that hotels are quite comfortable with the technologies and the services that they use. They're not the biggest early adopters. But we have seen from the hotels that are starting to move forward in terms of in-house engagement some pretty amazing results. So really what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about in-house engagement, about what's actually possible, and then I'm going to wrap up with a couple case studies, just a couple basic things of how hotels are actually using this and how the actual benefit, what the ROI is, and how they're actually benefiting from in-house engagement. I imagine we'll probably have even some time for some question and answers, hopefully. Just another thing so you know, as a new technology, there's basically 3 companies in the world now that are doing what we're into. There's a Canadian company, there's a company in Europe, and we're the company basically in Asia Pacific that has developed this solution. So to start off with, how do we actually engage the guest? How are we actually achieving this? We basically integrate with both the property management system and we integrate with the Wi-Fi provider. Now we know that in the Wi-Fi space, that probably 85% of guests actually use the hotel Wi-Fi. It's the thing that's most commonly used as a service within any hotel. The other thing we know statistically is that on average guests connect to the Wi-Fi something within 6 or 7 minutes of actually checking in. So very simple process you can see here. On the left-hand side is just a standard Wi-Fi login page. You'll actually see there, it's somebody's come to the hotel. You can see their free Wi-Fi. You probably can't see it too well on the screen there, but it's enter your name, enter your room number, and effectively that would be the login process into the Wi-Fi. I've now logged into the Wi-Fi. What we do at GuestScores, we actually integrate with the Wi-Fi provider and with the PMS provider. So I actually know all the guests that are in your hotel. I know when they're checking in, I know when they're checking out. So I can actually deliver campaigns at exactly the right time to create this communication with the guests. So the first experience, as I said, on the left-hand side, you can actually see the guest is logging in through the Wi-Fi. Now, for example, I could set up the system where halfway through the stay, I actually serve a page that is actually asking the guest to give me a review, okay? So, for example, when I actually connect to the Wi-Fi, let's say I've checked in on Monday, I'm checking out on Friday. On Wednesday morning, when I pick up my mobile, which most people are going to do in the morning to look at the weather or to get directions or to get back on the internet, that's when I'm actually reconnecting with the hotel Wi-Fi. And at that reconnection point in time, I have the ability to actually deliver a very simple one-page question. Now, you can see there the example. Are you enjoying your stay? How would you rate us? Now, there's no other system that's actually asking you for a review while the guest is actually in-house. So, for example, I can give my result, 1 star, 2 star, 5 star, whatever it might be, and you can see on the right-hand side there that that's the guest response. So the guest response is actually how many stars they're giving. The system then has the ability to actually give what we call a contingent response. So let's say that somebody gives me a 5 star. I might just pop up a display message saying, thank you very much for your review, and no further action. On the other hand, let's say somebody's given me a 1 star review. I might have a contingent response that actually says, oh, could you tell us a little bit more about your experience? I could have a multiple choice. I could have a display message. I can have any type of contingent response that I want, depending on the response the guest gives. So, for example, a 3-star response, my contingent response could be, well, we want to try harder. We want to do better. If it's a 5-star response, again, I can have a different type of contingent response. Now, one of the things that's quite interesting about this is how many people actually give you more information. And what we've actually found is very interesting. If you look at companies like Revinate and Review Pro, they tend to get responses of about 3% on average. So for every 100 emails they're sending out, they're getting about 3 people responding. What we've actually found is by serving this very simple one-page request, our average response rate is around 63%, which is pretty astounding when you actually think about it. If you actually knew what 63% of your guests are actually thinking of you while they're still in the hotel, that's a real game changer. That can really alter the way you operate as a hotel. As soon as I ask them a second question, So let's say somebody gives me that answer, oh, I'm giving you 3 stars. If I ask them a second question to say, oh, well, how could we do better? Or could you tell me what your issue is? Our response rate falls to exactly the same sort of level as Revenate or Review Pro. On the second question, you're getting 2 or 3% response rates, okay? So in a way, it makes sense because let's say that I'm not that happy with the hotel. And I've been in that situation myself. So if somebody asks me this question and then they start asking me more questions and more questions and more questions, I just get very annoyed about it. I'll actually just won't respond. And so it's a very, very similar situation. And what we've actually seen is as soon as you get that first page and that first response, the system will automatically generate alerts. So for example, let's say somebody gives me a 1-star result, then immediately the staff will be notified. It could be the front desk, it could be the customer engagement manager, but effectively as soon as that response comes through, the right people within the hotel are notified. At that point in time, the hotels that are having the most success with this will reach out to the customer. So if I see that John in room 6 has given me a 3-star, very quickly, if the front desk will ring up John and go, hey, it's Rob from the front desk. I saw you gave us a response to our review question. How can we do better? How can I solve your problem? How can I make your experience better than what it is? And we've found amazing success on that sort of approach. Now, after the staff member has actually dealt with the customer issue, you also have what we call contingent emails. Now again, if you look at the Revenates and Review Pros, they will send an email to every single guest, and that email will be exactly the same. Okay? Like, for example, could you give us an online review? What we're doing here, which is quite different, is the email response is actually contingent on the satisfaction level of the guest. So let's say that I want to send everybody out a request to give me an online review. If I've got a 4-star or a 5-star guest, if that guest is giving me a high score, the email that I'm going to send them can be very different to somebody that's given me a 1-star review. Let's say somebody gives me a 1-star review. My follow-up email should start with an apology. It should start with, we want to change that experience. We're disappointed that our hotel hasn't lived up to your expectation. We'd like to change that in the future. It's a very different message to somebody who, for example, has given me a 4 or a 5-star review. So for the first time, I can actually identify the satisfaction level of my guests, and I can actually communicate them differently based on their satisfaction level. Now, we have some hotels that will not send online review requests to anybody that's given them a 1 or a 2-star review. Now, some hotels like that and some hotels don't like that, but it's a way that you can actually start improving the control you have over your online reviews. How you use the system is obviously up to you. But as I said, some hotels, they'll only send online review requests to the 4 and 5-star guests. To the guests they've given them a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, they might actually send them quite a different message. We'll try harder, this is my name, I'm the manager, try us again, give us another chance. But for the first time, you can actually start having some control over your online reviews because you can talk to the customers differently, the guests differently, based on their satisfaction level within your hotel. In addition to that, apart from just the follow-up online review, you can also have all of your future marketing campaigns influenced by the satisfaction level of the guest. Now, I'll give you an example. We see that a lot of hotels concentrate on the 1 and 2-star reviews. They look at people who have given them a 1-star or a 2-star and they say, well, we have to change this, we have to recover, we have to protect our brand. And we're going to apologise, we're going to offer them something, we're going to try and improve their problem. And I see a few people nodding, so I think that that's obviously common within the industry. But I ask you a question. If somebody's given you a 1-star review, is it likely they're going to come back to your hotel? Probably not, correct? You might be able to circumvent a bad online review by apologising, by reaching out, by trying to improve their experience. But how many are really coming back? Probably not that many. What about the 4- and 5-star people? I mean, if you look at your hotel and you've got 100 guests in your hotel and you can actually go, wow, these 62 guests or however many they are, they gave me 4- and 5-star reviews. What's the chances of those guests coming back? Obviously a much higher chance. So when I'm actually doing a marketing campaign, not just for online reviews, but if I'm doing a campaign, a general promotion campaign to my guests, should I be sending out the same promotion to every single guest? Probably not. I'm going to be a lot more effective if I can actually filter the database for all of the 4- and 5-star reviews, because they're the people that are likely to come back. I could actually do special offers for those sort of guests. And those are the guests that are probably going to react a lot better because we know they already like us. And so it's, again, the first time that I can actually have a window into the satisfaction level of the guests while they're in-house, while I can do something about it, and then I can filter in future for my marketing campaigns based on the satisfaction level of each guest. It's pretty different to what we currently use. I'm just going to jump one thing back there. I should mention as well, I'm talking about reviews here, of course, and the reason I'm talking about the review campaigns is because what we've found is the hotels generally get the most excited about the review campaigns because they appreciate that occupancy has such a linkage into your review scores. But what we've actually designed here is a solution that really enables you to communicate in many different ways to the guests. So you can have rating campaigns, as I've been talking about here. Give us a review. How was your check-in experience? If we know through the PMS, for example, that they've had food at the restaurant, you can ask them again to rate that. But it's not just review campaigns. We have what you call information campaigns as well. So a lot of hotels will be quite familiar with that in the sense of, these are the services or general information that you want to convey to them. And we also have a thing called participation campaigns. So a participation campaign is a campaign where the response from the guest is either yes, no, or maybe. So you'll see up there I talk about PMS triggers. So let's say that you have been at the hotel beforehand and I actually see through the PMS that you often use the restaurant, for example, or you might be somebody that uses the spas or the massages or that sort of thing. So we can also deliver campaigns specific to each guest based on their PMS triggers, i.e., I know somebody always comes and likes to use the spa. We can actually set up a campaign that is just targeting those guests with, for example, a spa offering, because we know that that's an area of interest for them. We're pulling that data out of the PMS. So there's multiple campaigns, but generally for this presentation, I'm sort of sticking more on the review stuff because it's an area that's quite easy and most people are very interested in that. So one of the questions I always get is, well, how well does it work? How good is it? And I sort of alluded to it a little bit beforehand. When you look at the general pre-stay engagement, people like Triptease, they'll get response rates of maybe 1%, something like that, which you sort of look at and you think 1%, that's terrible. Why are people buying these services? And the simple reason that they're buying them is because for the cost that you're actually paying a company like Triptease, just one extra booking already pays for the cost for the monthly subscription. So a lot of these services aren't that effective, but from a return on investment, they actually still bring you that return, and that's why these companies are actually, Triptease has got 40,000 customers, something like that. And it's simply because they get a sufficient return, just that one extra booking will pay for it. When I look at the post-stay guys, again, I mentioned it beforehand, the typical response rates are something like 3%, 4%. If you're getting 5% response rate, you're doing exceptionally well. What we've actually found is the average response rate we're seeing, doing the way we're doing, is currently running at about 63%, which is just astronomically higher than what you're actually seeing from a lot of the pre- and the post-stay engagement. I said it beforehand, I mean, if you really knew how 63% of your guests felt about your hotel, it's a game changer for you. The other question that we get quite often is, how are guests happy about this? Are guests annoyed about it? Well, the answer again is how much you bother them. If you actually are running campaigns every single time, 3 times a day, you are going to bother the guests and you're going to get dissatisfaction. We've actually got hotels that simply run 1 campaign for the entire guest day. We've got other hotels that are running 2 or 3 campaigns for the whole guest day. We don't recommend you go too much more than that because you don't really want to bother the guest. Now, the other thing that people ask me is, why are you getting these results? And let me explain. Let's say that, we're probably all corporate travelers here as well. So if you actually go into the hotel, it's 7 p.m. at night, you're starting to relax, you're lying on the bed, you're watching some TV. Your phone goes bing, bing, okay? How many people will pause the TV to see what the message is? Probably most people, I would think. Or do you ignore the message and continue watching the TV? Well, a lot of people will actually pause the TV. Oh, I've got to better check what this message is. I pause the TV, I look at the message, and it's some message from the hotel bothering me about something. What's my response? I'm like annoyed. Leave me alone. I want to watch TV. I'm on my downtime. And there's quite a lot of dissatisfaction with that approach. What we've actually found with what we're doing is because people are in the process of connecting to the hotel Wi-Fi, it's a hotel system. So people seem to have less concern about getting a message while they're actually logging into the Wi-Fi. While they're logging into the Wi-Fi, they're not watching TV, they're not in the shower, they're not doing something else. They're actually focused on that process, so they're not actually being disturbed. Because of all of those factors of less disturbance using the hotel system, we've actually found a very, very low dissatisfaction level. In some of the hotels that we've actually launched the product, we actually did quite a lot of research to check the level of satisfaction. And we found, for example, in one hotel that had something like 600 guests receive the campaign, and there was something like about 3 guests out of those 600 that said, oh, I don't like getting this pop-up, okay? Now, when you actually look at that, you're talking about 1/3 of 1%, which when you actually compare to a lot of the other engagement solutions, it's literally 0. So really works, low complaint levels, high levels of acceptance, and a lot of benefit for the hotel. Okay, I'm going to jump into 2 case studies. The one thing if later on we're exhibitors here, and I'm happy to talk to you on a one-on-one basis and give you a little bit more data. But generally, most hotels don't want to share their brand when we're sharing these results. So I've had to sort of airbrush out the brand there. So hopefully nobody works backwards and works out who it is. This is a 5-star city hotel in Brisbane, Australia. Average nightly rate's about $270. And they basically came to us and they said, look, we've really got 2 goals here. One of the goals is brand protection, okay? Because when you're talking about a 5-star hotel that's averaging a TripAdvisor score of around 4.5, they are destroyed when somebody comes along and gives them a 1 star. Just one star review really damages their brand. And they actually came to me and they said, in our view, if every 1-star review we get, that is costing the hotel literally thousands of dollars. Because at the end of the day, people pick hotels based on reviews. And when a lot of people actually look for a hotel, they don't just look at the average score. A lot of people actually search specifically to look at the 1-star reviews, to actually see what the dissatisfied customers have actually said. So for them, it was, we have to eradicate 1-star reviews. That was one of their targets. The other target they had was identify, target, and market to guest heroes. What I was telling you about the 4 and the 5-star guests. So what we did there is we did just a very simple, single mid-stay review campaign. So they're not bothering the guest in any other way, just one review campaign. And in addition to that, a post-stay email campaign, similar to what you see with Revenate and Review Pro, those sort of guys. So that was basically the mission and the campaigns that we actually put out. So over 6 months. Firstly, what they tried to do is whenever that review comes in, a negative review, any type of review, you can generate alerts, and they had an internal goal to actually try to respond to the guest within about 15 minutes. That was the idea. If somebody gave me a 1-star review, I need the manager or I need somebody from the front desk to actually talk to that guest within 15 minutes. They averaged over 6 months an 18-minute response time, which is pretty good. Okay, so within 18 minutes, if you'd given a 1 or a 2-star, somebody from the hotel was reaching out to you to try and address your issue. The impact, they eliminated 1-star online reviews completely. In that 6-month period, they did not get not a single 1-star online review. Now, they did receive through the system 38 1-star reviews. In-house reviews, they got 38 of them over 6 months. The very interesting thing about that, by the way, and I'll be interested if anybody wants to give me some feedback here, the people were giving 1-star reviews for some of the most silly reasons. I mean, they were amazing. It was like a 1-star review, the front desk calls, there's no ice in my fridge. Okay, and it's like beautiful hotel, beautiful rooms, beautiful pool, fantastic service, beautiful place, really. This is a nice hotel. But because there was no ice in the fridge, I'm destroying you. Do you know what I mean? I mean, have you had experiences like this? People complain about the most amazing stuff. So it was already a learning, because you don't know that unless you actually engage the guest. As soon as the front desk actually spoke to the guest and said, oh, look, how can I, oh, there's no ice. No worries, we'll deliver ice 3 times a day. And we actually saw people go from 1-star to 4-star reviews. This ice thing is actually a real example. So pretty interesting. The other thing they tried to do is they reduced 2-star reviews by 82%. Okay, so they basically eradicated their 1 and their 2-star reviews. Time's up. Ooh, okay, can I have a minute to sum up? 2 minutes? Thanks. Okay, I'm going to have to be very quick here. The other thing they tried to do was identify those guest heroes. I sort of spoke to you a little bit about that. So they targeted the 5-star guests. Remember I told you that if you give a review, I can automatically give you a response. So what they did is that every single person that gave them the 5-star review, their automatic response is, we'd like to offer you a complimentary 2-hour late checkout. So what they were doing is they were moving, in essence, a 5-star to a 6-star. They were actually saying, you already like us, we're going to even give you something else. Okay, so they really built in that loyalty. The post-stay email campaign, this is just a very interesting one. They basically said to these 5-star guests, we want you to become a brand ambassador. We love you. You love us. You had a great time. We're going to say to you, here's a promo code. Anytime you come and book direct, we're going to give you a 5% discount. And not only that, why don't you become a brand ambassador for us? You can give this promo code to your friends and family. So, I mean, you might be in that situation yourself where sometimes people say, oh, do you know this hotel? Yeah, this is a great hotel. And by the way, I'm a special guest. You can use my promo code. So they really developed this loyalty, and it was a very, very successful campaign. Overall, the results, they increased their online TripAdvisor scores by about 1/3 of a star. They went from about 4.3 up to about 4.6, okay? Simply by being able to control that online reviews. In addition to that, repeat bookings basically increased by about 2.4%. So they actually got a return on investment literally within days. When they tell me I've got to stop, I've got to stop, okay? The other one, I'll just give you a quick rundown, was a much more low-end hotel, 2-star hotel. They have a big issue in this hotel in Sydney with false fire alarms, because people actually smoke in the room, and then the fire brigade comes out and they charge $1,600 for a false fire alarm. It's okay, if the hotel's burning down, no charge. But if the hotel's not burning down, $1,600 fee. So what they did there is they ran what we call an info campaign. And that info campaign basically said to people, please note you cannot smoke in the room and please press OK to confirm you've actually seen this message. If they didn't press OK, they were blocked. They could not get Wi-Fi access. So on the system, they actually had a dashboard with all of the hotels that actually confirmed, with all the guests that had confirmed, yes, I've seen this message. And basically, instead of getting, like, on average, about 1 call out every 2 months, over the 6-month period, they had 1 call out, so they saved about $3,200. Now, that $3,200 paid for the system about 30 times more than what the cost of the system was. Okay? So, very, very successful. I'm going to wrap up. So, very quickly, does anybody have any questions? Do you understand what we're doing? Yes? Yes, yes, yes? Okay, cool. It's very interesting. It's a real game changer. We've seen that it's really having a huge ROI and a huge impact in the hotel's ability to actually identify guest heroes, to actually change online reviews, increase direct bookings, and ultimately increase occupancy. Thank you for your attention. Has anybody got any questions, or you're fine? Everybody's happy? Thank you very, very much.